Captain Lisa Kane stood on the observation deck of the UES Memorial and watched Earth grow larger in the viewport. 6 months had passed since her rescue from the Zephyrian prison world, but she still felt strange wearing a clean uniform instead of gladiatorial rags. Her left arm hung in a support brace where the alien doctors had repaired damage from her fights in the arena. The scars would fade, but the memories would stay forever. Behind her, the other survivors of the Ninth Fleet gathered to watch their homecoming. 63 officers and crew had been pulled from Zetherian dungeons after humanity's devastating counterattack. They were the lucky ones. Over 2,000 of their shipmates had died in the ambush at Kepler 442. Their names were now carved in black stone on the memorial walls of Luna Base. "Captain," said Lieutenant Karen White, who had lost her right eye to a Zephyrian torture device. "Permission to speak freely?" "Always," Lisa replied. Karen had been her communications officer aboard the UES Retribution before their capture. During the months of imprisonment, she had become something more, a sister in survival. "Do you think it was worth it?" Karen asked quietly. "All those people who died, all the destruction we caused, did we really win anything?" Lisa looked out at Earth, peaceful and blue in the starlight. Down on the surface, President Claire Davidson was preparing to address the reformed Galactic Council. The ancient organization had been forced to accept new rules after humanity's demonstration of power. Species that had ruled for millions of years now had to consider the opinions of mammals from Sol. "Look around you," Lisa said. 6 months ago, the galaxy thought humans were weak prey animals. They thought they could attack our colonies and enslave our people without consequences. Today, 17 liberated species have joined the Terran hegemony seeking our protection. The Zephyrian Empire is gone, and their former slaves are building new lives as free beings. Karen nodded, but still looked troubled. "The Nexari are saying we're no better than the Zephyrians, that we used overwhelming force to impose our will on others." Lisa almost laughed. The Nexari had been among the loudest voices calling for war crimes trials against human leadership. They seemed to forget that they had refused to help when the Zephyrians were committing actual genocide against human colonies. "The difference," Lisa said, "is that we stopped when our objectives were achieved. We could have turned every Zephyrian world into ash, but we chose mercy. We destroyed their military, but we left their people alive. That's more compassion than they showed our colonies." The ship's intercom crackled to life with Admiral Morrison's voice. "All hands, prepare for orbital insertion. We'll be docking at Luna Base in 30 minutes. Welcome home." Lisa felt tears running down her cheeks as Earth filled the viewport. Home. For months, she had thought she would never see it again. The Zephyrians had enjoyed making their human prisoners fight each other for sport, promising freedom to survivors who defeated enough opponents. It was a lie, of course. No human would have left that place alive if Admiral Morrison had not unleashed hell across Zephyrian space. The transport shuttle carried the survivors down to Luna Base, where families waited in the arrival bay. Lisa watched her officers reunite, with wives and husbands and children who had thought them dead. She had no family of her own, but Dr. Amanda Price was there to greet her with a warm embrace. "Welcome back," Amanda said softly. "Earth hasn't been the same without you." Lisa looked around the familiar corridors of Luna Base. The walls were covered with memorial plaques for the Ninth Fleet's dead. Their sacrifice had not been forgotten. Their names would be remembered as the spark that ignited humanity's rise to galactic power. "What's our status with the Council?" Lisa asked as they walked toward the debriefing rooms. "Complete restructuring," Amanda replied. The old system where ancient species held permanent seats is gone. Now representation is based on economic and military contribution to galactic security. Earth holds the largest single block. They paused before a massive window that looked out at Earth hanging in space. In orbit around the blue planet, construction crews were building new space stations. The orbital shipyards worked day and night to produce vessels for the Terran Defense Force. Humanity was making sure they would never again face an enemy with inferior numbers. The Catherians are demanding that we dismantle the Godstrike platforms, Amanda continued. They claim kinetic weapons are too dangerous for any single species to control, Lisa snorted. They had no problem with Zephyrian disintegration beams when those were pointed at human colonies. Now that we have the superior weapons, suddenly they're concerned about galactic safety. President Davidson's response was diplomatic, Amanda said with a slight smile. She told Speaker Veltar that humanity would consider disarmament when all other species did the same. Until then, the platforms stay operational. They entered the briefing room where Colonel Ryan Hayes was waiting, with a stack of classified reports. The Special Forces officer looked much better than he had during his transmission from behind enemy lines. His wounds had healed, and his uniform was crisp and clean. Captain Kane, he said, standing to attention. Good to have you back. Lisa returned his salute. Thank you for getting us out, Colonel. I know it wasn't easy. Ryan's expression grew serious. Actually, the rescue was the easy part. After the Godstrike bombardment, Zephyrian resistance collapsed completely. They were so eager to surrender that they practically threw you at us. He activated a holographic display that showed the former Zephyrian territory. What had once been a unified empire was now a patchwork of independent worlds and small confederations. Some had joined the Terran hegemony. Others had formed alliances with different galactic powers. None posed a threat to human expansion. What about War Prince Khazar? Lisa asked. She had personal reasons for wanting to know the fate of the alien. Who had ordered her torture? War Crimes Tribunal on Nexus Prime, Ryan replied. He's been sentenced to life imprisonment for genocide against human civilians. The new Zephyrian government wanted to execute him, but we insisted on proper legal proceedings. Lisa nodded approvingly. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they could be both merciful and implacable. They would not stoop to the barbarity of their enemies, but they would not allow crimes to go unpunished. There's something else, Amanda said, pulling up another display. We've been analyzing the technology we captured from Zephyrian facilities. Their weapons were based on principles we'd never seen before. Dr. Cross thinks we can adapt them to create even more powerful defensive systems. Lisa studied the technical readouts. Advanced plasma containment fields, quantum energy manipulation, dimensional folding techniques that could make ships nearly invulnerable. The Zephyrians had possessed technology that surpassed anything in the galaxy. How did they develop such advanced weapons? She asked. They didn't, Amanda replied. We found records indicating they discovered an ancient cache of technology left by a vanished civilization. They'd been reverse engineering it for decades, but they never fully understood the principles involved. Ryan leaned forward. The good news is that human scientists are better at understanding alien technology than aliens are. Dr. Cross estimates we'll have working prototypes within 2 years. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. The galaxy had just witnessed what happened when humans were pushed to war. If Earth developed weapons based on ancient super technology, no force in the galaxy would be able to challenge them. Captain, Amanda said gently, there's a ceremony tomorrow on Luna. They're dedicating the memorial wall to the Ninth Fleet. President Davidson wants you to speak." Lisa looked out the window at Earth one more time. Somewhere down on that blue world, children were growing, up in a galaxy where humanity commanded respect. They would never have to fear alien bullies or galactic indifference to human suffering. "What should I tell them?" she asked. "Tell them the truth," Ryan replied. "Tell them that good people died, so that the galaxy would learn to take us seriously. Tell them that their sacrifice changed everything." Lisa nodded slowly. Tomorrow she would stand before the memorial and honor her fallen crew. She would tell the galaxy that humanity had not sought this war, but had finished it completely. She would remind everyone that Earth's ultimatum had not been a bluff. The Ninth Fleet had never reported back because they had been murdered in an ambush. But their deaths had awakened something in humanity that the galaxy had never seen before. They had awakened the sleeping giant that turned Earth from a minor world into the dominant power in local space. As Lisa stood looking at her home planet, she thought about the final log entry she had recorded before the Zephyrian attack. She had written that humans came in peace but would not die quietly. Now the entire galaxy knew the truth of those words. The age of human weakness was over. The age of consequences had taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget, and somewhere in the void between stars, the Godstrike platforms waited silently, ready to remind anyone who might forget that Earth's ultimatum was never to be ignored again. The Ninth Fleet had fulfilled their mission after all. They had died so that humanity could live free among the stars. Their sacrifice would be remembered for as long as humans traveled the galaxy, a warning to any who would threaten Earth's children. War Prince Khazar stood on the command deck of the Eternal Conquest and watched his fleet patrol the outer edge of Zephyrian space. 300 warships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. Each vessel carried enough firepower to destroy a human city. Together, they were invincible. "Status report," Khazar demanded. His scaled skin reflected the glow from the bridge displays as he turned toward his weapons officer. "All ships report ready for combat, War Prince," the officer replied. "Long-range sensors show no sign of human activity. Their pathetic fleets remain hidden near their home world." Khazar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. 3 weeks had passed since he destroyed the human Ninth Fleet at Kepler 442. 3 weeks since he had shown the galaxy how easily these mammals could be crushed. The humans had made threats but done nothing to back them up. They were cowards who hid behind diplomatic words. "War Prince," called the communications officer. "We're receiving priority transmissions from command. Admiral Zethek demands a status. Update on the human prisoner situation." "Tell the Admiral that our guests are providing excellent entertainment," Khazar replied. "The gladiatorial games begin tonight. The entire galaxy will watch human warriors die for our amusement." The bridge. Crew laughed at their commander's words. They had all seen the recordings from the prison world of Zethmara. The human prisoners fought desperately to survive, but they were weak creatures. Their captain, Kane, had already lost 3 matches. She would not survive many more. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on every console as the sensor officer shouted over the noise. "War Prince! Massive energy spike detected in the Korath system. Something just hit the fleet yards." Khazar spun toward the main display screen. The image showed the Korath Prime shipyards, where half of the Zephyrian fleet was built. The massive orbital platforms had been there for 1,000 years, protected by the strongest shields in the galaxy. Now one of them was gone, replaced by a cloud of glowing debris. "What happened?" Khazar demanded. "Did the humans attack with ships? Where are they?" "No ships detected, War Prince," the sensor officer replied, his voice shaking. "The energy readings don't match any known weapon. It was like the station just exploded from within." Before Khazar could respond, more alarms sounded. The communications board lit up with emergency signals from across Zephyrian space. System after system reported the same impossible news. Military installations were being destroyed by some unknown force. "War Prince!" the communications officer called out. "Priority signal from Zephyrian Command. They're under attack." The main screen changed to show Admiral Zethek's command center on the homeworld. The ancient Zephyrian leader was shouting orders at his staff while explosions lit up the sky behind him through the windows. "Khazar!" Zethek roared. "What is happening? Our installations are being destroyed across 7 systems. Where are the human fleets?" "There are no human fleets in our space," Khazar replied. "Our sensors show nothing. No ships, no energy weapons, nothing." As if to mock his words, another massive explosion erupted on the horizon behind Admiral Zethek. The orbital defense platform above the capital city had just vanished in a ball of fire. "War Prince," the sensor officer said quietly. "I'm detecting incoming objects on ballistic trajectories. They're moving at impossible speeds. 98% light velocity." Khazar felt his blood turn cold. Nothing could move that fast except pure energy, and energy weapons left traces that sensors could detect. These objects were invisible until the moment they struck. "Time to impact?" he asked. 17 minutes for the nearest target," the officer replied. "They're aimed at our primary fleet base at Vorthak." Khazar's mind raced. The humans had somehow developed a weapon that could strike across interstellar distances with no warning. Kinetic projectiles moving at near-light speed would be invisible to conventional sensors until they arrived. And at those velocities, no shield in the galaxy could stop them. "All ships!" he broadcast across the fleet channel. "Emergency jump to hyperspace. We are under attack by an unknown weapon system." But even as his ships began powering their hyperspace drives, Khazar knew they were too late. The human weapons had been fired hours ago, crossing the void between stars while the Zephyrian fleet celebrated their victory over the 9th Fleet. The first impacts came exactly 17 minutes later. Vorthak Base, the largest military installation in Zephyrian space, simply ceased to exist. The tungsten projectile struck the central command tower and released energy equivalent to a small sun. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. Within the next hour, every major Zephyrian military target had been destroyed. Shipyards that had built warships for centuries were reduced to glowing craters. Orbital weapons platforms that had protected entire worlds were scattered as debris. The mighty Zephyrian war machine was crippled in a single devastating attack. Khazar's flagship was one of the few vessels to escape into hyperspace before the bombardment ended. As the Eternal Conquest dropped back into normal space near the edge of the galaxy, he stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Red symbols marked the locations of destroyed bases. There were so many that they almost covered the screen. "War Prince," his communications officer called softly. "We're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's coming from Earth." "Put it through," Khazar ordered. The main screen showed a human in military uniform standing on what looked like a starship bridge. The man was older, with gray hair and cold eyes that seemed to look directly at Khazar. "This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said. "The targets you have just seen destroyed were selected with great care. We have crippled your ability to wage war, but we have avoided civilian casualties. This was intentional." Khazar felt rage building in his chest. This primitive mammal was lecturing him like a child. "You destroyed our Ninth Fleet," Morrison continued. "You took our people prisoner for your entertainment. You thought humans were too weak to respond. You were wrong." The display changed to "Show Earth's solar system." Hidden among the asteroids, Khazar could see dozens of weapons platforms that had somehow escaped Zephyrian detection. "We have over 2,000 projectiles remaining," Morrison said. "Each one can destroy a city or cripple a warship. We can reach any target in this sector of the galaxy. Your choice is simple. End this war now or watch your entire civilization burn." The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent. Khazar stared at the blank screen while his crew waited for orders. The war prince who had destroyed the human Ninth Fleet was now the commander of a broken fleet hiding at the edge of space. "Sir," the weapons officer said hesitantly. "What are your orders?" Before Khazar could answer, new alarms sounded. Something was approaching through hyperspace. The sensor display showed a single ship dropping back into normal space near their position. It was small compared to Zephyrian vessels, but its design was unmistakably human. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer reported. "They're requesting permission to board." Khazar almost laughed. The humans wanted to board his flagship after destroying most of his civilization's military power. The audacity was almost admirable. "Permission granted," he said finally. What choice did he have? The human shuttle docked with the Eternal Conquest, and a small group of soldiers came aboard. Their leader was a man with captain's insignia who walked like a warrior despite his small size. Khazar recognized him from intelligence reports. Captain Kevin Shaw, the sole survivor recovered from the Ninth Fleet battle. "War Prince Khazar," Shaw said formally. "I am here to discuss terms." "Terms?" Khazar repeated. "You have already won. What terms could there be?" Shaw's expression was hard as stone. "The return of our prisoners, all of them, alive and unharmed. In exchange, the bombardment will stop." Khazar felt his claws extend involuntarily. This human dared to make demands of him in his own ship. But as he looked at the tactical display showing his destroyed bases, he realized he had no choice. "And if I refuse?" he asked. Shaw stepped closer, and Khazar could see the rage burning in the human's eyes. "Then Admiral Morrison will turn every Zephyrian world into a field of glass. Your people will learn what it means to face an angry Earth." For the first time in his life, War Prince Khazar felt fear. Not fear of death in battle, which was honorable, but fear of complete annihilation. The humans had shown they could reach any target in Zephyrian space. They had shown they could destroy anything they chose to destroy. "The prisoners will be returned," he said quietly. Shaw nodded. "Within 24 hours. Any delay and the bombardment resumes." As the human delegation prepared to leave, Shaw paused at the airlock door. "War Prince," he said, "you wanted to show the galaxy that humans are weak. Congratulations. You've shown them something much more dangerous." "What is that?" Khazar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. Shaw's smile was cold as space itself. "You've shown them what happens when humans get angry." The airlock sealed behind the departing humans, and Khazar was left alone with his shattered fleet. In the space of a few hours, the mighty Zephyrian Empire had been brought to its knees by a species they had dismissed as primitive mammals. The galaxy would never make that mistake again. President Claire Davidson walked through the underground corridors beneath Geneva and tried not to think about how deep they were. The elevator had taken her down for 5 minutes straight, passing through layers of rock and steel that could survive a direct hit from orbital weapons. Around her, the walls hummed with hidden machinery that kept this place secret from the galaxy above. The Terran Defense Council waited for her in a room that had no windows and no connection to the outside world. 12 of Earth's most powerful leaders sat around a table made from a single piece of black stone. They had been arguing for hours about humanity's response to the Ninth Fleet disaster. Now they all looked at Claire as she took her seat at the head of the table. "The situation is clear," said General Patricia Hoffman, the head of Earth's military forces. "The Zephyrians have declared war on humanity. They destroyed our fleet, and they're holding our people prisoner. We have to respond with everything. We have." "Everything we have isn't enough," replied Secretary of Defense Mark Torres. "The Zephyrian Empire has 1,000 worlds and millions of ships. We have one planet and a few hundred vessels. This isn't a war we can win with conventional weapons." Claire looked around the table at the faces of her advisors. Some showed anger, others showed fear. All of them looked to her for answers she wasn't sure she had. As President of Earth, she had hoped never to make the kind of decision that now faced her. "What about the Galactic Council?" asked Foreign Minister Lisa Park. "Surely they won't stand by while the Zephyrians commit genocide against human colonies." "The Council has already made their position clear," Claire replied. "They believe the Zephyrians have the right to expand into unclaimed space. As far as they're concerned, our colonies are fair game." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Humanity was alone. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations would not help Earth fight the Zephyrian Empire. If humans wanted to survive, they would have to win this war by themselves. "There is another option," said Dr. Nathan Cross quietly. The scientist sat at the far end of the table, his thin face pale in the artificial light. "Project Prometheus is ready for deployment. Every head in the room turned toward Nathan. Project Prometheus was Earth's most classified program, known only to a handful of people. Even Claire had only learned about it 6 months ago, and what she had seen had frightened her more than any alien weapon. "Explain," Claire said. Nathan stood and activated a holographic display in the center of the table. The image showed the solar system, but it looked different from the usual maps. Hidden among the asteroids were dozens of small structures that glowed with internal power. "While the galaxy focused on energy weapons and plasma shields," Nathan began, "human scientists perfected kinetic warfare. We've built a network of magnetic accelerators throughout the asteroid belt. Each one can fire tungsten projectiles at near light speed." General Hoffman leaned forward. "How near to light speed?" 98%, Nathan replied. "At that velocity, a tungsten rod weighing 10 kilograms hits with the force of a nuclear weapon. The impact creates temperatures hotter than the surface of a star." Secretary Torres shook his head. "That's impossible. No material could survive those forces during acceleration." Nathan smiled for the first time in weeks. "That's what the aliens think, too. They've never developed kinetic weapons because their materials science isn't advanced enough. But human metallurgy has always been superior. We've created tungsten alloys that can handle the stress." Claire studied the holographic display. The asteroid belt contained hundreds of hidden weapons platforms, all aimed outward toward the galaxy beyond. How many shots do we have? Each platform carries 50 projectiles, Nathan answered. With 73 operational platforms, that gives us over 3,000 rounds, enough to destroy every major Zephyrian military installation in their home systems. What about their shields? Asked General Hoffman. Zephyrian energy barriers can stop any weapon we've used before. Dr. Amanda Price spoke up from her seat near the wall. She had been invited to this meeting because of her expertise with alien technology. I've been studying captured Zephyrian equipment for 2 years. Their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and particle beams. They've never faced solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Nathan nodded. Our tests show that a tungsten rod at 98% light speed will punch through Zephyrian shields like they don't exist. The energy barriers simply can't react fast enough to stop something moving that fast. Claire felt a chill run down her spine. The weapons Nathan described could destroy entire fleets with a single volley. They could turn planets into graveyards. They were exactly the kind of super weapons that galactic law forbade any single species from possessing. What's the range? She asked. Theoretical maximum is about 50 light-years, Nathan replied. But we get better accuracy at shorter distances. From Sol to Zephyrian space is 37 light-years, well within our optimal firing envelope. General Hoffman was studying the display with the eyes of a professional soldier. How do we target them? These projectiles will take hours to reach their destination. The enemy could move their ships by then. We don't target ships, Nathan said. We target infrastructure, space stations, orbital shipyards, planetary defense platforms, things that can't move. We cripple their ability to wage war. Secretary. Torres looked sick. You're talking about destroying civilian targets. Space stations have families living on them. Workers. Children. The Zephyrians didn't worry about our children when they attacked our colonies, General Hoffman replied coldly. They're holding Captain Kane and her crew as prisoners for their entertainment. They've shown us what kind of enemy they are. Claire held up her hand for silence. The room fell quiet as everyone waited for her decision. As president, she had the authority to authorize Project Prometheus. She also had the responsibility to live with whatever consequences followed. Show me the target list, she said finally. Nathan touched a control and the display changed. Red dots appeared throughout Zephyrian space, marking military installations and strategic targets. Claire counted them quickly. Over 200 facilities scattered across 7 star systems. We can hit them all simultaneously, Nathan explained. The projectiles will arrive within minutes of each other. The Zephyrians won't have time to react or warn their other bases. What about retaliation? Asked Foreign Minister Park. They'll strike back at Earth. Let them try, said General Hoffman grimly. Our orbital defense platforms can handle anything they throw at us. And once we've crippled their war machine, they won't have much left to strike back with. Claire stared at the target list for a long time. Each red dot represented thousands of enemy lives that would end when the tungsten rods arrived. But she also thought about Captain Kane and the other prisoners being tortured for alien entertainment. She thought about the human colonies that had been burned and their people sold into slavery. Dr. Cross, she said at last. How long to prepare? For firing? The platforms are already charged and loaded, Nathan replied. We just need targeting coordinates and a launch authorization. We could fire within the hour. Claire stood and walked to the window that looked out into the underground chamber. Beyond the reinforced glass, she could see technicians working at computer stations, preparing for a war that would change everything. She thought about her daughter who was studying at university in New York. She thought about all the human children who deserve to grow up free from the threat of alien attack. "There's one more thing," said Dr. Amanda Price. "I've been analyzing the wreckage from the Ninth Fleet. The Zephyrians used weapons far more powerful than anything we've seen before. If we don't strike now, they might develop even deadlier technology." Claire turned back to the table. Every face was watching her, waiting for the decision that would determine humanity's future. She had tried diplomacy and been ignored. She had trusted in galactic law and been betrayed. Now there was only one option left. "Contact Admiral Morrison," she ordered. "Tell him to prepare the 7th and 8th Fleets for deployment. They'll serve as a distraction while the real attack begins." "And Project Prometheus?" asked Nathan. Claire looked at the target display one more time. All those red dots representing enemy facilities that would soon be smoking craters. All those aliens who would die because they had chosen to make war on humanity. "Authorization granted," she said quietly. "Commence Operation Shattered Crown. Let the galaxy learn that Earth's ultimatum was not an empty threat." As her orders went out through secure channels, Claire remained standing by the window. Soon tungsten rods would cross the void between stars at impossible speeds. Soon the Zephyrian Empire would learn what happened when humans were pushed too far. The age of human weakness was ending. The age of consequences was about to begin. Admiral Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant and watched Earth turn slowly below him. The blue and white planet looked peaceful from space, but Jack knew better. Down on the surface, factories worked day and night to build weapons. Scientists labored in secret labs to create new ways to kill. Soldiers trained for battles that might never come home from. Earth was preparing for war. 3 weeks had passed since Helen Carter delivered humanity's ultimatum to the Galactic Council. 3 weeks since the Ninth Fleet had jumped into hyperspace towards Zephyrian territory. 3 weeks of silence from Captain Lisa Kane and her 12 ships. Jack stared at the communication console that should have been buzzing with reports from the fleet. Instead, it showed only empty static. "Still nothing, sir," said Lieutenant Kevin Shaw. The young officer looked tired. He had been monitoring all frequencies for days, hoping to catch even the smallest signal from the missing fleet. "Long-range sensors show no human signatures in the target zone. It's like they just vanished." Jack nodded but said nothing. He had commanded fleets for 20 years and had never lost an entire battle group without trace. Ships could be destroyed, but there were always survivors, always escape pods, always some kind of wreckage to mark where they had been. The complete disappearance of the Ninth Fleet meant something had gone very wrong. The door to the bridge opened and Dr. Amanda Price walked in. She carried a tablet covered with data, and her face showed the kind of tiredness that came from too much work and too little sleep. Amanda was Earth's leading expert on alien technology. If anyone could figure out what had happened to the fleet, it would be her. "I've analyzed the last transmission from Captain Kane," Amanda said. She swiped across her tablet and brought up a star map on the main screen. "The fleet reported successful hyperspace transit here, at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Sensors detected multiple human ships arriving in normal space. Then nothing." Jack studied the map. The Kepler 442 system was supposed to be empty except for a few mining stations. It was the perfect place to meet with Zephyrian forces away from civilian populations. What about the energy readings from that time period? Amanda touched her tablet again and new data appeared on the screen. This is where it gets interesting. Our deep space sensors picked up massive energy spikes in that system about 6 hours after the fleet arrived. The signatures match Zephyrian disintegration beams, but they're much stronger than anything we've seen before. How much stronger? Jack asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. 10 times normal power at least, Amanda replied. Maybe 20 times. The Zephyrians have weapons we didn't know about. Weapons that could destroy our ships before they had time to fight back or send distress signals. Jack felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The Ninth Fleet had been humanity's newest and most advanced naval force. If they could be wiped out so easily, what chance did Earth have against the Zephyrian Empire? The communication console beeped, and Lieutenant Shaw straightened in his chair. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. Put it on screen, Jack ordered. The main display changed to show the council chamber. War Prince Khazar stood on the Zephyrian platform, his scaled face twisted in what might have been a smile. Behind him floated pieces of twisted metal that Jack recognized with a sick feeling. They were parts of human ships. Honored council members, Khazar said in his deep, rumbling voice. 3 weeks ago, the human government made threats against the Zephyrian Empire. They promised to defend themselves by any means necessary. Today I show you the result of their empty words. The camera moved closer to the wreckage floating behind. The War Prince. Jack could see hull markings that identified the pieces as coming from UES ships. His hands clenched into fists as Khazar continued speaking. 12 human vessels attempted a cowardly attack on a peaceful mining operation in the Kepler 442 system, Khazar lied smoothly. They struck without warning against defenseless workers. Our security forces were forced to destroy the attackers to protect innocent lives. Jack knew it was a lie. The Ninth Fleet had been sent to deliver a message, not to attack civilians. But the council members listening to Khazar did not know that. They saw only the wreckage and heard only the War Prince's version of events. This is what happens when primitive species try to threaten their betters, Khazar went on. The humans learned that words without strength behind them are meaningless. Perhaps now they will accept their place in the natural order. The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent. Jack stared at the blank screen and felt rage building inside him. Khazar had not just destroyed the Ninth Fleet. He had made it look like humanity was the aggressor. He had turned Earth's heroic officers into villains in the eyes of the galaxy. Sir, Lieutenant Shaw said quietly, there's something else. We're picking up a coded transmission on a restricted frequency. It's coming from deep in Zephyrian space. Jack turned toward the communication station. Put it through. Maximum security encryption. The screen flickered and showed the face of Colonel Ryan Hayes. The Special Forces officer looked like he had been through hell. His uniform was torn and dirty, and there was a bandage over his left eye. Behind him, Jack could see what looked like the inside of a small ship. Admiral Morrison, Ryan said. This is Colonel Hayes reporting from behind enemy lines. I've got bad news and worse news. Which do you want first? Give me the bad news, Jack replied. The Ninth Fleet walked into a trap, Ryan said. The Zephyrians used fake distress signals to lure them into an ambush. They had 3 battle groups, waiting in the asteroid field around Kepler 442c. Our ships didn't stand a chance. Jack felt his jaw tighten. And the worst news? Captain Kane and about 60 of her crew survived the initial attack, Ryan continued. They're alive, but they've been taken prisoner. The Zephyrians are holding them on the fortress world of Zethmara. Intel suggests they're planning to use our people in gladiatorial games. They want to broadcast the fights across the galaxy to show how weak humans are. The bridge fell completely silent. Jack could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. The thought of Lisa Kane and her crew being forced to fight for alien entertainment made him feel sick with rage. There's more, sir, Ryan went on. I've been monitoring Zephyrian communications. This whole thing was planned from the beginning. They wanted to destroy the Ninth Fleet to send a message to Earth. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans are easy to kill and not worth protecting. Jack stared at Ryan's face on the screen. The colonel was one of Earth's best soldiers, a man who had never failed a mission. If he looked this shaken, the situation was even worse than Jack had imagined. What's your status, Colonel? Jack asked. I'm aboard a stolen Zephyrian scout ship with a small team, Ryan replied. We managed to get some intel on the prison facilities, but we're too few to attempt a rescue. We need a full fleet action to have any chance of getting our people back. Jack nodded slowly. Understood. Get back to Earth space as fast as you can. Bring everything you've learned about Zephyrian defenses and capabilities. We're going to need every advantage we can get, sir, Ryan said, and his voice was hard as steel. They're not just holding our people prisoner. They're torturing them, making them fight each other for sport. Captain Kane, she's still alive, but they're breaking her down piece by piece. Jack felt something cold and deadly settle in his chest. The Zephyrians had made a mistake. They thought destroying the Ninth Fleet would show human weakness. Instead, they had shown humanity exactly what kind of enemy they were dealing with. They had shown that mercy and diplomacy were wasted on creatures who enjoyed causing pain. Get home, Colonel, Jack said quietly. We're going to make them pay for every drop of human blood they've spilled. The transmission ended, and Jack turned to look at his bridge crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. These young officers had joined the fleet to explore the galaxy and protect Earth's colonies. Now they were going to learn what war really meant. All hands, Jack said into his communicator. This is Admiral Morrison. I want every ship in the fleet ready for combat operations within 24 hours. Load all weapons. Prepare for extended deployment. And send a message to Earth Command. Tell them it's time to activate Project Prometheus. As his orders went out across the fleet, Jack looked down at Earth one more time. The peaceful blue planet would soon be the center of a war that would shake the galaxy. The Zephyrians thought they had won by destroying the Ninth Fleet. They had no idea that they had just awakened something far more dangerous than any fleet of ships. They had awakened humanity's rage. Helen Carter stood in the center of the massive chamber and felt very small. The Galactic Council Hall stretched out in all directions like a metal cathedral. Above her head, hundreds of alien beings looked down from floating platforms that moved slowly through the air. Some had eyes that glowed like stars. Others had no eyes at all, but still seemed to watch her every move. The smell in the air was strange and sharp, like burning metal mixed with something sweet and rotten. She wore her best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with gold trim that showed she spoke for all of Earth. In her hand, she held a small device that would translate her words into the many languages of the galaxy. Her heart beat fast, but she kept her face calm. This was humanity's last chance to solve things with words instead of weapons. Speaker Veltar floated on the highest platform. He was tall and thin like a stick, with skin that looked like old leather. His people called themselves the Cytherians, and they had ruled parts of the galaxy for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind blowing through empty caves. "The human wishes to address the council again," Veltar said. The way he said human made it sound like something dirty. "We have heard these complaints before. The matter was decided. The Zephyrian Empire has rights to expand into unclaimed space." Helen stepped forward and activated her translator. Her voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. "Honored council members, for 3 years the Zephyrian Empire has attacked human colonies on the Outer Rim. They have killed thousands of innocent people. They have taken our children as slaves. They have burned our farms and destroyed our homes. We have shown you proof. We have shown you recordings. We have brought survivors to tell their stories. Yet you do nothing." A low buzzing sound came from the Nexari platform. The insect-like beings moved as one group, their wings making the noise. They spoke through their buzzing, but Helen's translator turned it into words. "The new species demands protection it has not earned. Humans have been in space for less than 100 years. The Zephyrian Empire has existed for 10,000 years. Who are we to believe?" Helen felt anger rise in her chest, but kept her voice steady. "You should believe the evidence. Zephyrian ships attack our colonies without warning. They take our people and sell them in slave markets. They destroy everything we build. This is not expansion, this is murder." The Vortani delegates made a sound like breaking glass. Their crystal bodies caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. When they spoke, their voices rang like bells. "The humans build in space that belongs to no one. If the Zephyrians claim this space, it becomes theirs by right of strength. This is how the galaxy has always worked." Helen looked up at the mechanical platform where the forge waited. These robot beings had once been alive, but had put their minds into metal bodies millions of years ago. They rarely spoke in council meetings, but when they did, others listened. Today they stayed silent, their red eyes glowing, but their metal mouths closed. "We are not asking you to fight our battles," Helen said. "We are asking you to tell the Zephyrians to stop. Your words carry weight. If you speak against these attacks, they will listen." War Prince Khazar laughed from the Zephyrian platform. He was large and covered in scales that looked like armor. His teeth were sharp, and when he smiled, it looked like a threat. "The little mammals want protection from their betters. They cry to the council like children running to their parents. Perhaps if humans were stronger, they would not need to beg." Helen felt her hands shake with anger, but forced herself to stay calm. "We did not come here to beg. We came here to give you one last chance to do the right thing. The attacks on our colonies must stop. The slaves must be freed. The Zephyrian Empire must pay for the damage they have caused." Veltar's laugh sounded like dry leaves blowing in the wind. "Or what? Will the humans stamp their little feet? Will they hold their breath until their faces turn blue? The council has heard your words, human. We have made our decision. The Zephyrian Empire has the right to expand. If humans are too weak to defend their territory, perhaps they do not deserve to keep it." The chamber filled with sounds from the alien delegates. Some laughed. Others made clicking noises or high whistles. None of them sounded friendly. Helen looked around at all the platforms floating above her. These beings commanded fleets of ships that could destroy planets. They had weapons that could turn stars into dust. They had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, but they would not help her people. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver device. With one press of a button, She sent a signal across space faster than light itself. The signal traveled to Earth and reached Admiral Jack Morrison on the UES Defiant. It was a simple message with just one word: begin. The United Earth government has tried to solve this problem through peace, Helen said. Her voice was different now, harder and colder. We have followed galactic law. We have shown respect for your authority. We have asked for help and been refused. We have been insulted and mocked. You have shown us that justice means nothing to you. You have shown us that the strong can do whatever they want to the weak. The chamber grew quiet. Even War Prince Khazar stopped laughing. So we will no longer ask for your permission, Helen continued. We will no longer beg for your protection. We will no longer follow laws that exist only to keep us weak. From this moment forward, humanity will defend itself by any means necessary. We will protect our people. We will free our slaves. We will punish those who attack us. Veltar leaned forward on his platform. You threaten the Zephyrian Empire? You threaten us? You are one small world with a handful of ships. The Zephyrians have 1,000 worlds and 10,000 ships. They will crush you like insects. Helen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Perhaps. But insects sometimes carry disease, and disease can kill even the strongest creatures. She turned toward the exit, but stopped and looked back. You could have stopped this with words. You chose not to. Remember that in the days to come. She walked out of the chamber while hundreds of alien eyes watched her go. Behind her, the delegates began to buzz and click and whistle among themselves. They thought they had just watched a primitive species make empty threats. They thought humans were too weak to matter. They would learn how wrong they were. Helen Carter had delivered Earth's final message to the galaxy. Now it was time for Admiral Morrison and the Ninth Fleet to deliver humanity's answer to those who thought they could ignore Earth's ultimatum. The age of words was over. The age of consequences was about to begin.